Hello, welcome to What She's Thinking. I'm your host, Greg Schwartz, your coach for online dating. I'm asking a group of women questions on dating, sex, and other topics, all submitted by men like you. To get your questions answered, go to makeonlinedatingfun.com/questions. So here's the interview.
I'm Jessica, so I'm 31. I identify as heterosexual cisgender. I am a cannabis entrepreneur. And I'm generally I'm very strong in communication, and I like exploring in weird and esoteric things. I'm definitely an alpha female. I like leading and doing things. And I am very communicative, and that's what I really bring to a lot of relationships. And I also like exploration and novelty. I also like costumery and performance, and like putting a lot of time and energy into how I look and feeling pretty.
I'm Hope. So I'm 28. I grew up in Washington State. I've traveled a lot. I own 2 businesses that allow me to do that. Here in San Francisco, I am also a preschool teacher, and I teach kids yoga and meditation. And I'm an artist, so I'm working on that career as well. I believe in connection with everyone, and I like adventure and flexibility. I like that. That's kind of how my life is. I, in a year, might be in Chicago. I might be here. I might be somewhere else. I design my life to be that way, to have that fluidity. I would say that I'm powerful. I believe in loving people and understanding, and I wholeheartedly believe in being honest, transparent, vulnerable, and being forgiving.
I'm Jen. I'm 37 years old. I grew up in the Bay Area. I'm a director of operations for a small company. It's kind of telling in the way that I speak and everything else, right? So most of my life is most of my job. But outside of that, to kind of make sure there's a polar opposite of that, I do a lot of fun things. I'm not interested in kids. I'm not interested in getting married. I'm more interested in living my life and actually taking vacations. That's the kind of life that I want to lead.
Welcome. So, first question, outside of online dating, what are the best venues to meet potential partners?
Well, that's a tough one, because meeting them at bars are kind of a crapshoot. Clubs are even more so. I've heard work is a good place, but I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
So it can be tough, sometimes just in passing. It seems to just be kind of luck of the draw, at least for me.
Yeah.
I would say that most of my romantic relationships, and I'm actually intentionally now trying to meet more people in these spaces, but the social spaces that I spend time in, so they're usually like parties, but I go to a lot of parties that don't serve like alcohol. So, and then I do dance every Sunday, which is like a community dance. And so staying and talking to people that way. So I think just going deeper into my hobbies, and then being open into potentially dating people who are also into the same hobbies.
So I moved here and didn't know anybody. The only way for me to meet people was either the internet or bars, or just literally putting myself out there every time I would go. And out there, like when I go to a restaurant, just talking to the waiters or the bartenders or whatever, and put if I was interested, just saying it.
So it sounds like pretty much just going out and living life is pretty much your recommendation.
Yeah. And actually, I agree with you with that, going into the spaces where you do some community social stuff. If I kind of forgot, that's kind of how I meet some people. I meet people all the time, but not necessarily for dating purposes. It's I make friends or just acquaintances and connections. And I guess it kind of goes along with any kind of connection you're going to make, right? Whether it's business, whether it's friendship, whether it's more than that. If you find a common ground, then likelihood of actually building something off of that is pretty high.
Nice. So if a guy isn't interested in you, how do you want him to tell you that?
Ooh, that is a tough one. and I feel like I get it often because I often initiate and hit on men.
Okay.
The one that I get most often is I'm in a relationship, which is not like saying like I'm not interested in you, but it could be. It's like a flavor of like that door's shut. But I think that typically it's you just get clearly friend zoned. Like they're just like, yeah, you're like super rad. You know, I'm just like I'm not in a place to be like looking into a romantic relationship with you right now.
Like that's what he would say to you?
Yeah. Well, I put it a little bit more delicately. It's usually like something along the lines of like, I just want to be friends.
Are you okay with that though?
Well, so I was recently friend zoned yeah, like I sort of like had to be, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was because like I realized it was like, well, I can either like be his friend, I can meet him there and be his friend, or decide that I don't want to be his friend because he doesn't want to be more than friends. So like I can't convince him otherwise. Also, I don't want to date someone who doesn't want to date me. So like, that's
right.
Like pretty silly. But like what's interesting is he like still he was like, okay, I just want to be friends. I said, okay, great, like we can just be friends. But then he was like still hitting me up every day, like multiple times a day, and like asking me about advice and stuff like that. And it kind of like got to the point where I was like, okay, like I'm trying to meet you at friendship, but like I'm not treating you like a friend. And so we need to actually readjust our relationship into what friendship actually is. Right. And so we had to like really talk about that and actually like take a break. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really healthy. So, but I mean like flat out, like I don't even want, I haven't gotten like, I don't even want to be your friend. So I don't know how a guy could tell that to me. I just walk away. Like, I don't know.
Well, I approach everything as I just want to be friends. Mm-hmm. Like even if I meet you and I'm interested in you, like my goal is friendship. And I think that's where anything that's going to be great is going to be formed from. So if there's some sort of attraction, then yes, I can go for that. But if it ends up that they're not interested or it doesn't seem like a good fit, then I take a step back and just pursue them as friendship. I think the best way to be let down is complete honesty. Just flat out. I'd rather someone just say, I'm not interested in you that way, or I just don't want to talk, or I just want sex, or whatever it is that you want, just say it. It's way better than just what I heard. I just learned the word ghosting, and it was like the rudest thing I ever heard of. And I was like, you can just say, like, it's no need for that. You can just say how you feel, however they take it, it's not your problem. But it's just a better way to do it.
I'm in agreement. I'd rather just know up front. To be fair, I rarely hit on anyone. Man, woman, I don't. I tend to not because I kind of don't see people that way. Even if I see someone as attractive, I may not act on it. It's like, oh, that person's cute, and then I move on, right? Like I don't do anything about it. But there have been obvious occasions where I'm clearly interested in someone, and they know it. But what I don't like is the really bad gray area, because then they start to, like, I feel like there's a bit of an advantage point for them where they can kind of get more of what they want without actually giving me the things that I need to be fulfilled or satisfied. And if someone is not, if their intentions aren't to where I want them to be, I'd rather just know so that way I can make that decision and just move on. And it's the same thing, right? Like if someone's hitting on me, I can't sit there and be like, no, we're just going to be friends and then I'm going to flirt with them. Like that's just not cool. So I'd rather just have someone flat out tell me, you know what, you're really awesome or whatever it is, and I'm just not feeling this right now. Like I'd be like, okay, cool. Gives me the opportunity, like you said, to just move on. And then that way it's like I know what my answer is. There's no weird gray area. At that point, I do treat them different, like you said, where it's like there's a huge difference of a love interest, or dating interest versus someone who's just a friend that are like straight up friend zone. There's nothing happening. I'd rather just have all of that just out on the table and then just be like, all right, peace out. I'm out of here.
Again, with that too, is there was this guy that I was dating, and then he stopped talking to me and I was so confused because we had such great months. And then I found out months later he was hit walking on the street by a drunk driver.
Whoa.
So now my thing is like,
oh my God,
are you dead? like, are you even alive? And that's where, then I learned the ghosting thing, and I was like, that's horrifying to me, because I'm such a compassionate, like, thoughtful person that when I have, like, any sort of relationship or connection with anybody, I'm like, that's there, and if you just let it go, then I'm just sitting there wondering that.
Like, what happened to them?
Yeah.
That's frightening. That's
is just, like, a lot of anxiety.
Wow. Jeez. I'm so sorry to hear that.
That's intense. I think that so it sounds like
that doesn't always happen. Sure.
that sounds like an extreme. It's an outlier, maybe, from my experience.
How do you show a guy that you're not interested in him?
How do I show a guy that I am not interested in him?
Yes.
I really limit eye contact. And, like, I'm just really short with my words. And, like, I try not to be rude, but, I clearly try to get, like, complete the transaction of, like, the conversation and, like, exit as soon as possible.
Varies for me, because it depends on where I'm at. In some of the communities that I'm in, they are very open in terms of being very free. Just think of free, loving hippies. And with that, even friends can be lovers, right? So in cases like that, you have to be a little bit aware of how you're actually having the communications. If I'm out and someone's just like, hey, I want to talk to you, I'd flat out tell them, like, I'm not interested. Thanks. If they don't get it, then I will get rude. I've had to, unfortunately, but that's kind of the game when you're a woman, right? When you go out somewhere, it just kind of happens. It's unfortunate that it's still like that these days, but it is what it is. But in some cases where it's people that I know that are friends, but we're in community spaces where playing with friends is totally okay, I finesse a little bit. It's like, look, that's awesome. I'm glad you're interested. Thank you. I'm very flattered. But right now, I'm not interested. And if they can't get that, then it's like you said, start limiting the eye contact and all those different things.
Yeah, I think as a woman, it is hard. Because you don't know how they're going to react. I've had somebody, and I was totally nice about it, then all of a sudden turn and tell me I'm ugly and, like,
wow,
like, mean things. And I was like,
yep.
You were just hitting on me. I know I'm not ugly. Like, what? This doesn't make any sense. And as a woman, and moving here, I was told I had to be careful. I can't walk on the streets at night because I don't know anybody. And that's just, like, the general atmosphere that I grew up in, and I think most women, is you're not supposed to walk alone at night or, do certain things, but I don't really have that sort of limitation on myself. So I've gotten myself into some situations because of it. And so now I do assess. Now, where's the comfortability of the situation, the atmosphere, the environment. I like to be honest, like I said earlier. I just like honesty. But there is a nice way to be honest.
Agreed.
And then there's a mean way to be honest. And I don't believe in shaming people, because it takes a lot of courage for somebody to hit on you and to come forward. Just like when I do that, it takes something in me to do that to somebody. So getting let down in a nice way. It's just like, I'm not interested. Now, if they don't get it, then I'll be aggressive.
Right.
It's like, I need my space, and I'm like, this is my body and my space.
Back off, buddy.
Yeah.
So to that point, though, talking about rejection is just kind of a tangent off of that. And same thing on the internet dating, right? Where, like, you tell someone, I'm actually not interested, and then they start to go off on you for whatever reason. It's like, look, dude, I'll say this to everybody out there, man, woman, it doesn't matter. If you're going to get rejected, don't turn around and try to make the person you're getting rejected by feel like they're a horrible person just because you got rejected. That is the absolute worst thing you could ever do.
Definitely.
Worst, 100% worst thing you could ever do. Because one, you don't know what they're going through. Two is, that is not your problem. That is not their problem that you're feeling hurt just because you don't like what they had to say. Grow up and just be respectful and move on.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else to add on that?
I think it's like usually like I was just as you were talking, I was like I just think it's like really mirrored. Like if a guy is like screaming at me across from the street, I'll be like, keep your dick in your pants.
Yeah, right.
Like I'll like match their like level of inappropriateness. But if I'm like but if I'm like in a community and it's like from somebody that I'm friends with or whatever, like and they're being very vulnerable with me, then I'll like take the time to really dive into like, you know, like really deliver a good shit sandwich.
Yeah.
Like here's the
Shit sandwich.
here's the 7 reasons why I think you're a really incredible human being.
But I don't want to deal with you.
Yeah, and I try. Well, so that's another thing. So I try not to use the word "but" because it negates everything you said.
Oh, fair,
so I'm like,
fair.
I'm a yes and girl. Yeah, I'm a yes and. I'm like, you are fabulous in all these unique and beautiful ways, and I want you to know that I witness and see that about you, and like. The chemistry for me just isn't there right now. So like I just am gonna say that the door is closed and like here's how I would like to see our relationship move forward, and like I honor and respect like what you need to do and what we need to do to like move this forward in a way that feels healthy for both of us.
You are a much nicer person than I am.
Do you enjoy teasing men, like leaning in for a kiss, then pulling back if he leans in? What do you get out of it? How do you think it feels for us? What's the best way to deal with a woman who's teasing me? Long question.
Oh my god, I love teasing. Teasing is my favorite. But I will say that I only tease if I have full intention to follow through in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it really is about, like, building up the excitement and the momentum. And that's really what it is. And it should feel fun and playful. And if it doesn't, then, like, that's bad news. Like, I wouldn't participate in teasing where you're like, okay, like, this is fun. This is, like, a fun game. Like, we know it's going to end in something fun for both of us. If that's, like, in question, then I think that teasing is, like, not cool. And if you're with a chick that's doing that, like, you should just run because she's like, she's crazy. Like, she's not, if she's, like, going to tease you but not actually, like, follow through, then, like, there's some, like, other deeper issues that are going to come out around that.
So you might want to give some context about the communities you've been referring to.
So there's a kink for that. There's a kink for everything, right?
But there's consent going in before
yes,
that.
absolutely. 100%. Or at least there should be in when you're doing it right. But generally speaking, when it comes to just regular dating and my partners and whatnot, there's definitely a similar thing where it's like, I like to tease a little bit and vice versa. It's kind of a fun thing. It just kind of builds up that anticipation because sometimes you just want to get down and fuck. And sometimes you just kind of want to do that build up because once you get to that build up and you actually get through to it, usually the end result is quite explosive. Usually. However, obviously there are times where it doesn't work that way. But yes, there are kinks for that, and there are people who are specifically looking for that kind of a play where they like to feel unsatisfied for whatever reason.
Given the last piece of the question, which is how should I deal with a woman teasing me, I'm pretty sure this is not someone in that kink.
I would agree with that. Yeah, if that is the case, I would have been in agreement where it's like, you know, what are you getting out of it yourself? And if you don't like it, say it. Say, look, I really don't like when you do things like this. You know, it makes me feel like I'm less of a person, or I just don't like the feeling that I have after this. I don't feel like I'm being cared for. If you just flat out say how you're feeling and they decide to disregard how you're feeling, then clearly that person is just not regarding you as a human being at their level.
I grew up with all boys, and I actually was told I was a tease a lot. And I never meant to be, and it was kind of a negative connotation of the word. So in the concept of, like, I'm going to be with somebody, I do love the teasing. Like, I don't like doing nudes, but I will do sensual photos that will give you, like, something in the sort of tease. And then you can see all of it when we're together. But when it comes to, like, my behavior in normal life or just hanging out, and it could be perceived as something, I think that would be something to be aware of and conscious of, like, is this person actually teasing or, like, leading me on, or is it just their personality?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Because maybe they grew up in a different kind of environment.
How do you think you'd be able to tell, or more accurately, how would a guy be able to tell the difference?
That is hard, but if there is question, and I liked what you said, like, if there is something, like, you could just say it, like, say how you feel, like, when you do this, like, if you touch my leg when we're sitting next to each other. I feel like it means this, and I'm confused because I'm not sure. Just say it. And just ask the questions, and then you'll know.
So I can imagine a lot of the guys listening being like, what? She's going to freak out if I ask that. So how would you react if a guy said that to you, on a date?
What do you mean? Like if they're saying that I'm being teased?
If they're telling you basically what you were saying, if, hey, you're putting your hand on my leg and it seems like you're saying you, I don't know, want to kiss me or sleep with me, but then you're not acting that way. Is that how you said it?
I mean, like,
I think the more graceful way to go about it is like, if you feel like a woman is teasing you, like, why don't you initiate and ask, like, oh, hey, like, do you want to go grab a drink at my place? Or like, so you try, like, you ask if she wants to take it to the next step. And if she's like, no, I'm not interested, I'm going to go home and go to bed, then like something's not right. Where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm getting these types of signals, but like she's not actually going to follow through on this. So like, why is she doing this? Mm-hmm. Then that's sort of like up to you. Like, am I okay with a woman who's like going to act like this?
Well, yes and no, because there are times where like previously I would move incredibly slow on dates, very, very slow, with the very, very rare occasion of actually going home with the person on the first night. Or whatever, whatever night. And, I could be, maybe I'm shy. Maybe I'm not sure what I'm doing. Maybe I don't know what I want yet. Maybe I do want to take this person home, but maybe I don't. Maybe I have this idea in my mind that it's not okay to take this person home because it just makes me, easy, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? This day and age, I mean, it's not as bad of a thing as it used to be. However, it's still a thing. Especially how, how people grow up, whatever your culture is, whatever your dynamics are, X, Y, and Z. So, I think to your point, if they ask, they want to take it to the next level, that is a very graceful way of saying like, hey, do you want to like maybe take this up to my place? And it's like, what, I'm going to go home right now, but thank you. I had a wonderful time. If they're questioning like, oh my gosh, you fucking teased me, like that would be horrible because it could be that person's just moving a little bit slower. If you question at that point, do I want to be with someone who's actually going to not be that sure? That's for them to decide as well, right? Maybe you're already on different wavelengths or if it starts to be a repeated thing where like you say they go out several different times and they're having the same exact behavior, then you're like, okay, are you just taking me for my money or what? Because like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And added to that, not just necessarily that they might be going slower, but maybe they're actually feeling certain things. Like sometimes, so I just had some tragedy. Like my dad died a couple months ago, and I wanted to go out, and I also 10 days later had a good friend who was also a lover of 3 years die. And he was the last person I had sex with. And so it was really hard for me because I wanted to go out and I wanted to move forward. But there was like anxiety and like these emotions that I was feeling. And it was just like I needed to make sure that it was the right time for me. So, and then with those guys that did just like, oh, fuck you if you're not going to give it to me right away or give, whatever. Like, then I was like, okay, then you're not the person that I need right now. But it's like being mindful that there's other things that could be going on.
And were you teasing them, you think?
Well, my personality has been told that I could be like that because I'm just a very friendly person. I believe in being intimate with everybody, which is like a hard thing, a concept for a lot of people.
You mean it's like intimate interactions, not necessarily intimate in sex, but just intimate in terms of communication?
I believe you can be intimate without having sex.
Okay, good clarification.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing
But I like the repetition. If it is happening a lot, then
that's when you ask.
That's when you either ask or you're like, right.
It's really about just like signals. And like, I don't know, I think that you've shared a lot of experiences that I haven't personally had, and I think that I'm very direct and clear with my signals and like with my intentions, and then sort of trying to figure out and understand other people's and deciding what types of behaviors I'm okay with and not okay with based on how much I like that person and where I'm at.
And I mean, that's the thing is you always have to decide what is best for you, not what's best for the other person.
I I would say this, probably now that, with how old I am now, I'm a lot clearer on my intentions, especially with the groups that I'm in. I have to be. But earlier on, I was not. I definitely was not, because I didn't know that it was okay to say something that might hurt someone else's feelings because they may not like my answers. Or I didn't know how to deal with some of those things, right? Like, I had a hard time telling a guy, like, no, no, thank you, because I felt bad. I wasn't sure what kind of interaction I was going to have after that, or the reaction is going to be. That comes along with just years and years and years of being conditioned a certain way, right? So, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to just some women are not going to be able to communicate these things clearly, and it's always good for a guy, in my opinion, or it's good for the other person to ask, like, hey, I'm just getting some signals here. Can you just clarify? And if they can't clarify, fine. Have another conversation later if you feel they're worth it, or it's worth it. If they're just kind of treating you in a sense of like earlier I said, it's like it's all repeated interactions, and they're just being the same way, and they're kind of taking you for a ride, that just obviously just move on, because they're not treating you well.
Yeah.
Basically, honesty is the best policy.
Honesty and communication. Seems
Definitely.
the biggest thing, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, could you rate your sex drive compared to the average woman's?
High.
That'll also help.
I would say very high.
Incredibly high.
I would say it's really high, but only but it's very selective.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
like the one or two partners that I have, because I am polyamorous, that I'm like in relationship with, I'm like daily dirty texts.
I wonder if we're in the same.
We probably know a lot of the same people as we are.
Wait a minute.
But like generally speaking, like on dating apps or just like people that I'm sort of casually or loosely dating, I'm a little bit more, like I'm like not so much.
Right. And I'm in agreement with you too. It's like when it comes to my main squeeze, my main guy, like he basically has to shove me away. That's like a normal thing. But it just depends. Like with women, I'm a little bit more on the amorous side as well. But with most men, I'm just like, nope, not gonna touch it. Nope. And it really does depend. It's either it's all there and it's gonna be like all the time to the point where I'm gonna be sore for a few days, or nothing's happening at all.
Yeah, totally.
I agree. I also think, like, I've actually told guys, and they're like, want to have sex with me? I'm like, I'm not going to have sex with you if it's a one-time thing. Because when you unleash this dragon, I'm going to want it all the time.
Yeah.
And if you can't give that to me, then it's not
There's
worth
no point.
it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Continuing in that vein, then, where is your favorite place to be touched for foreplay, and how do you like to be touched there?
Ooh.
Well, that got some really happy looks.
I'm not that much into foreplay. Like, sometimes I'm okay with it. It depends on, like, the person and my connection with them. But often, I just want sex.
So you just go straight from, like, hello,
like,
here's a
I'm
kiss,
like,
to, like, I
whoa.
want sex?
I mean, maybe not directly, but pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's very, like, I mean, I'm the person that doesn't really like cuddling or like all that. So it's very rare that if I find a connection with somebody that I'm like, I want to be in bed with you for hours and we can do all the things.
Oh, we'll come back to that question.
And yeah, so I guess it depends, but for foreplay, if I'm gonna do it, we'll think about this, you guys.
Honestly, it really depends on the mood. Sometimes I'm a very primal individual where it's like, no, we're just going for it. And sometimes you just want to take your time. And if that is the case, oh man, it really varies. It also depends on if my partner's good at one thing or another, right?
That makes sense.
If they're not all that great with oral, I'm just like, don't do it. Like, I could try to teach you, but just don't. We're good. I have vibrators. Yeah. It's fine. But if some people are really good with massages, some people are, Greg, you're really good with massages.
Thank you.
Some people are really good with just certain things, like, they know how to have like the soft, like, touch and the soft kisses on the neck and stuff like that. And that's really nice. but it really depends. And with my current partner, it usually starts out with like a bit of a massage. It usually does, because that's like at least one way to get me to relax, because I'm always working so much. It's like, okay, can you fucking relax for like 2 seconds, please? And then from there it might move on. But foreplay is kind of a moving target. If you do it all the same all the time, not gonna do it for me.
Yeah, I would say I have like 2.25 spots. So I have 2.25 spots. Like my neck and the nape of my neck, like almost always. Like if I get like nicely,
it's a very common one.
Yeah, like it's just it starts to rev my engines. And then like my boobs and my nipples, like always. Like if I allow you to go there, like we are 99% sure we are fucking, and it is gonna be good. Yeah. And then one of my favorites, but I call it a 0.25 because it can only be used at certain times and then under certain situations, and it has to come at a quasi surprise to me, which is just a good ass grab, but the kind where it's like you're like picking up a softball, from but kind of from the side, but and it's like kind of fast but lingers just a little bit. Like it's just like it's almost like between a grab and a slap at the same time, which means like, yeah, I'm gonna give it to you tonight, and they're like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah.
You're like,
yeah, let's do this.
I got the signal, got it.
Wow, that just got some really happy nods all around. Okay, all right.
Well, okay, so to be fair, I do that with partners. I do that with the women in my life, because they're just like, ooh, I like this. You're being a little aggressive, but it's not so aggressive to the point that they're just like, oh God, I'm gonna be afraid. So yeah, I get what you're saying, because that's the reaction that I've also had.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for listening. To help other men find the podcast, please rate it on iTunes and write a review. Also, I'd love to hear your feedback. Which question did you find most helpful? Email me, greg@makeonlinedatingfun.com. And remember, to get your questions answered, go to makeonlinedatingfun.com/questions.
I do like that we're all
Very
like lady bosses, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually debating about titling this one like Lady Boss 1.